Mamara was a very beautiful lady and a good cook, but she had an ugly sore at the back of her left hand that refused to heal. This restricted people from patronizing her. Mamara lived in a town called Komiko. One day, the Duke of her town decided to host his fellow dukes and other dignitaries at his daughter's wedding. He needed a cook to prepare food for his guests. In hopes of finding the best cook, he sent his chiefs searching far and wide. Although they knew that Mamara was the best in her community and all neighboring villages, they did not contact her because of the ugly sore at the back of her hand. How can we contact Mamara to cook for dignitaries? What if they find out that the cook has a very ugly sore at the back of her hand? They talked to themselves. As the searching continued, the various chiefs recommended different cooks. One of the chiefs recommended Mamara, but the other chiefs rejected her. Meanwhile, the wedding was fast approaching, and the search for a good cook had not yielded any result. The other arrangements for the wedding were almost concluded. The dance group, the acting group, the decoration, and a whole lot of others, even as far as going to the clothing, were all ready, and the Duke and his wives were getting worried. Up to this moment, we have not gotten a cook that will wow our dignitaries. In the community, celebrating without good food is like an abomination. So the Duke wanted the best of the best to come and cook for his guests. The chief, who recommended Mamara, advised the Duke to conduct a contest for cooks so that he could choose the best of them. The Duke took his advice and provided everything it would take to conduct the contest. Words flung round the village about the cooking contest organized by the cook. Mamara, who saw the poster of the contest, initially didn't want to apply because in her own mind, she felt that she was going to be disqualified even before she starts to cook. But her friend, Adoni, went and applied on her behalf. Later told Mamara, "My friend, you are a good cook and I have already applied for you. You are going there for the contest and I know that you must win." Mamara, who never intended going to cook, but decided to give it a try since her very good friend Adoni had already enrolled for the contest. She made adequate preparation and waited for the D-Day to come. On that day, Mamara went to the Duke's place where she met the other contestants. When they all saw her, they laughed at her. "Look, who is going to eat her food?" Mamara felt bad, but she kept her demeanor. The cooking contest began, and Mamara made the nicest of all food. In fact, it was more like a blind testing. When the Duke and his chief tasted Mamara's food, without knowing that it was Mamara that cooked it, they all fell in love with the food, and the Duke insisted that the person who cooked this meal must surely cater for his daughter's wedding. In fact, after the contest, Mamara was judged to be the best and the winner. The Duke accepted the result of the contest and picked Mamara to do the cooking, though other chiefs were against the Duke's decision. But how would the expected dukes and dignitaries from other communities feel when they heard that the cook who prepared the food for the guests of the Duke of Komiko had an ugly sore on the back of her left hand, and worse yet, they had eaten the food? How do you think that they were going to perceive the Duke? In a bad light, they tried to convince the Duke to change his mind, but he adamantly refused and insisted that Mamara was going to be the cook for the day. The Duke, in his wisdom, decided to employ a doctor to treat the cook, but he would not like his guests to see the dressing of the cook's sore in case there was need for her to appear publicly. The doctor told the Duke that the healing might take weeks for it to heal completely. The Duke thought about another thing and therefore decided to give a prize to the best cook. He invited the award designer and specifically told him to design a prize for the back of the cook's left hand. His intention was to cover the ugly sore so that nobody would see it. The designer designed a very beautiful prize for the back of the left hand of Mamara. It was publicly presented to her and she put it on with smiles on her face. The dressing on her hand was completely covered. Only the prize could be seen, and because it was beautiful, the crowd burst out with applause, smiling and admiring Mamara. The king pleaded with the people not to tell anyone, who had not known that the cook had a sore, and they all vowed never to tell anyone. On the day of the event, the cook prepared food for the Duke and his guests. They all ate and were happy. In fact, they had to call Mamara because the Duke's visitors wanted to see the best cook who made these sumptuous meals. Therefore, each of the guests began to invite the cook to prepare food at their events without knowing that Mamara had a sore at the left hand. All was going on well for Mamara as her life turned around for good. She felt happy, but her friend Adoni was not happy about it. Now Mamara is now more popular and everybody calls her the best cook. But here I am, also a good cook, but nobody recognizes me. Adoni went on and started spreading rumors to the neighboring villages that Mamara had a sore at the left hand and that she used the sore to cook meal that the Duke and his dignitaries ate. When the other dukes from neighboring villages heard it, they were disappointed and angry at the Duke. You mean to tell us that you gave us food that was contaminated? How can you give us a meal that was cooked by a lady with sore? When the news got to the Duke, he was angry and sad. So my people had disappointed me. They failed to keep to their promise and they went and spread the false narrative simply because they were jealous of Mamara. The Duke sent his spies to find out who started the rumor. It was later found out that it was Mamara's best friend, Aduni, that started it, due to the fact that she got jealous of Mamara's new world. And yet, in another village, the other dukes and dignitaries, all summoned together, decided to teach the Duke a lesson for deceiving them by bringing a cook with a sow. So therefore, they invited the Duke alongside with Mamara to explain to the public why he did what he did. When the Duke arrived with Mamara, he looked at them and said, "My daughter's wedding was coming. I needed the best cook so as to treat my guests very well to a sumptuous meal and entertainment. I searched around the village and after that I did a cooking competition where Mamara emerged the winner. I noticed she had a sore on the left side of her hand. I decided to invite a doctor who immediately started treating her. Told me that it was going to take some weeks for the wound to be completely healed. So I made a design that covered her left hand. But her friend, Adoni, who became jealous of her, decided to spread the news around in order to tarnish not only Mamara's image, but also the Duke's image. The doctor who has been treating Mamara indeed has done a good job. Mamara stepped out from there. The Duke pointed at her. She came out, raised her two hands up, and they were all shocked to see that the sore in which the head was deep and bad had all gone. Mamara's hand was completely healed. When they all heard the story, they felt bad at what they did and apologized to the Duke and Mamara. They also promised Mamara more contracts. She went home happy. When the news got to Aduni that Mamara's hand were completely healed, she felt bad for betraying her friend. She allowed jealousy to ruin her friendship with Mamara. She came back to apologize to Mamara. I am very sorry. I allowed my jealousy to cloud my judgment. Mamara smiled and told her that no matter what, Aduni, you are still my friend. You were actually the person that encouraged me to apply for the competition. Even when I hesitated, you went and applied on my behalf, despite the fact that you are still a good cook. You stepped down for me, your friend, and I will never forget kind gesture. I have forgiven you, and both of them hugged themselves. Moral lesson of this story: never allow your impediment to get to you. And with hard work, you are definitely going to get to the top of your game. Thank you very much for watching, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye bye.